Two. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the broadcast. Tonight I have a very, very special guest that I want to introduce you to. His name is Manny, and I first met him a few years ago. And when I met this particular person, he was a broken individual. Now, he's going to tell you himself in his own words. But suffice it to say that he came from one of the worst home situations that you could ever imagine. He was one of a ton of kids. I think he's like there's like 13 of them. I'm serious. I'm not joking. And their mother and father were just really incapable parents. They both had their own emotional issues. They both had addiction. They both had all kinds of sexual abuse problems. There's a lot going on in this family. And so he knew instinctively, somewhere deep inside, that if he ever wanted to find success in this world, he needed to remove himself from that situation. And that's exactly what he did. And then he found us here at Life Skills Masterclass. And we grabbed a hold of him and said, Manny, we can help you. And we did. And it's, years later, he's graduated the program and is out there on his own. He has a five-figure corporate job. He bought his own car. He's paid for his own vacation in Hawaii and so much more. I can't wait for you to meet him. Let's bring him on right now. So here comes Manny. Hi, Manny. How are you?
Hi, Steven. How are you?
I'm doing great. Hey, listen, so I want to introduce your story because it's really an incredible journey. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the beginning. So let's talk about your family situation before you met us. What was growing up in this household like?
So, I come from a big family. I'm the middle child of 13 kids, number seven, six above me, six below me, all same mother.
Wow.
Yeah, growing up, I already had older siblings and my mom was still popping out kids like there's no tomorrow. So,
Wow.
growing up in an environment where kids are always screaming, they're always crying, there's never any silence, you kind of get used to it and think it's normal. And there's no room to think, there's no room to prosper, there's no room to try to get better. And having abusive parents, that only piles on top of everything else, and it was chaotic.
Yeah, so it's a hard environment to grow up in, especially with that many kids. How did mom and dad provide for that many children in one house? How many bedrooms were in the house that you grew up in?
But with so many kids, and we would always get evicted or get kicked out of places. Sometimes we would like get spread apart. Like I remember times like before the school year, during the school year, we would get evicted, and some of us would be with my mom, others would be with my uncle or my nephews or nieces or stuff like that. So we wouldn't necessarily all be together. And most of the time, it was in an apartment living, one or two bedrooms. At one point, I recall we were living with my godmother, and it was about 18 of us in a three-bedroom apartment.
18
And
people in
this,
three bedrooms. So you guys were literally sleeping on top of each other.
well, like we slept in the living room. So, to me, like I didn't have a room. It was always you sleep in the living room on the couch on the floor, let alone we didn't have beds. We were always, when it wasn't until I moved out that, I finally had my own bed and was able to sleep on an actual bed.
Hmm. Wow.
And
With a start like that, how does anyone have any kind of real chance at survival or success in the world? Now, let's talk about a little bit later. So, I remember when I first met you, you told me a story of how your mom would take you out to the strip, the Las Vegas strip, in front of the Bellagio Casino at all hours of the night. Tell us a little bit about that.
so, I'm the middle child, and lucky me, I was 6 foot at 10 years old. I guess had to grow
Wow.
super early. So, yeah, I was 6 foot one at 10 years old. And when we moved to Las Vegas, my mom needed, being undocumented, she needed to find work. And one way we survived was my mom would pick up cans on the Las Vegas Strip. And I'm the middle. I'm 6'1" at 10 years old. My older brother doesn't want to work, so my mom doesn't force him. And my younger brother, he's the baby of the boys, the little mama's boy. So, she just not forcing him to work. So, lucky me, I'm forced. You're tall, you're strong, you have to help. So I was about in fourth, fifth grade, about 10, 11 years old, picking up cans on the strip up until 12, 1, 2 in the morning. And right before school, sometimes even, at the very beginning, I remember we didn't have money. So I was literally eating out of the trash, finding food. I remember one time we were in front of a CVS and there was one of those like pre-packed sandwiches.
Right.
And like, it's, I don't know, I just get, as a grown up, you see the big picture, but, I guess, I was telling my mom I was hungry and, she just took the sandwich out of the plastic bag and, out of the trash and opened it up and gave it to me. And, you have to do what you have to do to survive. And, there's other times where like, I remember she took my sister and there was a Happy Meal and I'm trying not to tear up, but, me and my sister were fighting over this Happy Meal that was in the trash. But when it's survival, when you have to eat, when your parents are forcing you to do it, I have to help. I have to be the one. My mom couldn't do it alone. And me and my sister all were fighting over this Happy Meal, and it's a lot.
I
And
totally
over
understand.
time, no,
And
go ahead.
and I remember you telling me about having to dress up in a SpongeBob costume.
Yeah, so, after picking up cans for like a year or so, in the brutal summer in Las Vegas, my mom started selling food to the people who pass out those cards on the strip, those
Right.
escort cards. And
Mhm.
then I guess, after that didn't work out, she bought a SpongeBob costume. And since I'm tall, during the weekends or during like the busy nights on the strip, like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like the weekend, my mom would, after picking up cans or selling food, she would put me in the SpongeBob costume from like 7 p.m. up until like 2, 3 in the morning, because people would like tip to get pictures with the SpongeBob costume.
Right.
And, of course, I never saw any of the money. My mom always took it all, but, it almost felt like a job. What does a 10-year-old have to be on the strip putting on a SpongeBob costume to help raise his family?
Wow, that's incredible, and I don't know how you survived like that, Manny. It's a testament to your resiliency and your will, your determination to survive. Now let's fast forward a little bit. Now you're a teenager and you're starting to work at different places. You got a job working on the strip in a bar of all places,
Hmm.
without naming the bar. Just tell us a little bit about what your life became when you grew up and started working in a high volume business on the Las Vegas Strip.
So, growing up on the strip, you're always seeing drunk people, so you kind of get surrounded in that environment. So
Yeah.
at 18, I was working at this bar and, of course, having no guidance, having no role models, no nothing, the first person who gives you attention or, takes an
Yep.
interest on you, you kind of cherish those people, right?
Yep.
So I
You're going to be right
remember like,
there.
so I remember my chefs, they would like start drinking on the job and steal alcohol from the business they were working for. And, the multiple times where I went into the, cooler to take beer out for them. And, eventually, they start offering me beer. And, of course, me being 18 and wanting to be rebellious or wanting to appreciate the attention they were giving me, I would just, drink the alcohol. And eventually, I started getting tipped out and, making money. And of course, they took advantage of that. I remember there were some points where, I'd buy a 32 pack, the chef would buy a 32 pack, and another chef would buy another 32 pack, and we'd race to see who could finish 32 bottles of beer in one night. And, that became almost a habit of,
Wow.
every Friday, every Saturday, drinking 64 beers total and, just spiraling out of control.
And
And,
how old
at
are
some
you at this
point it
time?
led like I'm 18, 19 years old.
Oh my gosh. So you were completely underage, drinking on the job, on the Las
Hmm.
Vegas Strip, inside of a major casino. Um, that's just insanity. And so that's the direction you were heading. Tell me where you think you would be today had you and I not crossed paths. Where do you think your life would be? Because now we know how it all started. So where do you think you'd be today?
Well, if I hadn't met you or started taking life skills masterclass, I felt like my life, I'd either be in jail, be in prison for, drinking underage or, getting caught drinking at a casino while being 18, 19 years old. Or I'd probably, at some point, there was a point where I was starting to take hardcore drugs and I'd probably be 6 feet under. Like, I really don't know where my life would be if I hadn't taken this course or met you or, worked on myself in any matter.
That's crazy, man. That is crazy. Well, we've done a lot of work together. We've been working on you for years now. How long has it been?
I believe 3.5 years next month.
3.5 years next month. And so tell us a little bit about your life today. What is your life now? You first took my course, and after you took my course, you became a coaching client. And so now you've finished that program. So tell me a little bit about what your life is like today.
Where do I begin? It's like night and day. Now my life, I remember one of the first goals when we first started was getting my high school diploma. And
Mhm,
at the time, that seemed like such a big deal to me because, coming from an abusive home, being told I was never going to graduate high school, you kind of start believing that. But after
mhm,
taking control of my life and realizing that I'm behind the steering wheel, my decisions make the outcome of my life.
mhm.
Now I've gotten my high school diploma. It sits on my desk. I can look at it every day and admire it and be like, I was the one who, took the initiative to go back and finish high school and get my diploma. I've gotten my own car. I have a stable job where,
Just not to
I
interrupt, but
can work.
just out of curiosity, I want to know how many people in your family have a high school diploma
I am the second one to get my high school diploma
out
out
of
of 13 so
everybody.
far.
Yeah, you're just the second one, and that's incredible in itself. But now you have a five-figure job in a major corporation, and you paid for your own vacation in Hawaii. Tell us how it feels.
It feels great because I have control of my life. I was able to go to Hawaii twice. Some people only go once in their life, and I've been able to go to Hawaii twice. I've been able to, get my own car, have a driver's license, and that's a big one for me, right? My siblings, only like three of us have a license, including me. So being able to have my diploma, being able to afford to go on vacation, being able to have my own car, all under my name and being able to work on myself has given me undeniable amount of control. And one of the first things we learned in the program in Life Skills Masterclass was having this rubber band. And it's something so simple, but it really does give you control of your life when you have a bad thought or you're feeling bad or you're having a long day. And you settle down and look at your rubber band, you realize I'm in control and I choose what I let affect me. And only Manny can make Manny mad. Only Manny can make Manny angry. And being able to have that control is night and day.
Yeah, it is. And I've changed so many people's lives with that rubber band. It's so silly, but it really works. And when you learn how to use the rubber band effectively, it over time begins to change the way you process information. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Before, I was one of those people who were like, really, I guess one parent I was close to was my mother. And despite everything, I developed character traits after her. So she's very negative and very toxic and always sees the worst in things and is always, judging people and criticizing people and, just being negative, right? So,
Right.
prior to Life Skills Masterclass, I felt like I was very much like her. I would like spiral and judge people and, see the negative aspect and see that life had no purpose. And,
Right.
after Life Skills Masterclass and the rubber band in particular, being able to catch those thoughts and being able to prevent yourself from spiraling and going down that rabbit hole. At first, it was hard, and there's still days where like I catch myself having a conversation in my head, and I, flick the rubber band and take back that control, and I'm able to, take control of my thoughts and not let myself go into that dark place.
Isn't it incredible how something as simple as a little rubber band can really change your life?
It's 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 almost some people don't believe in magic, and but I think this rubber band is like magic. It's the power that you have.
That's what. That's funny. Well, I gave the power to you. All I did was teach you how to use it. I've told you from the very beginning, I'm nothing more than a tour guide. All I do is just guide you down the path and keep you on the right path. But you're the one that has to do all the hard work, and you have. And it's paid off in so many immeasurable ways. I don't think you, or maybe even myself, I don't think when we started this journey together years ago that either of us really thought that you would end up being as successful as you are, having completed the program. What do you think is the most important lesson that you've learned from Life Skills Masterclass?
I would say the most important lesson is believing in yourself and giving yourself an opportunity to actually take control of your life and actually not let that broken child that you have inside determine the outcome of your life. It may be hard at first and it may be scary, with all these overwhelming, powerful emotions. And sometimes, facing the trauma that we have can be scary and we may
Mhm.
try to suppress it with the alcohol, with the drugs, and, with partying or, whatever, you use
Now
to
you went down
suppress.
that
But
path too.
once you,
You were experimenting with drugs at one point. Tell us a little bit about that.
yeah, first my chef started it off with giving me alcohol, and next it was cocaine, and I remembered, I was in a bad mood. Here's some cocaine. Go snort it in the restroom, and be happy. And I mean, yeah, I mean, in the moment you forget about it. And all you want to do is snort the drugs and forget about it. But at some point, the drugs wear off, and that spiral is harder, it's tougher because you realize, okay, well, the drugs aren't working anymore. What more is there to numb myself and not deal with the emotions?
And so what we did was work on your cognitive restructuring, which basically means the way that you think. And we really gave you some really good tools that help you make better decisions in your life. Talk to me a little bit about the way you process information today versus how you used to process it.
So today, processing information, I mean, there's still days where it's like a little hard, but I feel like actually being able to be in the present, take life day by day, and sometimes, taking a step back to look at the big picture and realize if I make this decision right here, like for example, if I wake up in the morning and tell myself today's going to be a bad day, and I build on that thought and let myself spiral into having a bad day, it's not only going to be one bad day, then it's going to turn into a whole week and, sometimes even a month or, sometimes even a couple of weeks of just feeling gray and numb. And, now being able to see that difference of, oh, I'm no longer waking up and telling myself, oh, today's going to be a bad day. No, actually being able to get up and being grateful that I'm able to get up, being grateful that I'm healthy, that there's nothing wrong with me, and actually being happy that I'm alive, that I can breathe, that both of my legs work. One thing I love is to run, and sometimes I may not want to go on a run, but I flick that rubber band and I tell myself, I may not want to run right now, but I know when I get done with that run, I'm gonna feel a million times better. And sometimes you just have to move your legs. You just have to do it.
It's funny. There are so many people watching this right now who are absolutely clueless what we're talking about with this rubber band. And I'm going to keep it a secret because you've got to join Life Skills Masterclass if you want to learn this simple technique. But it's something that really, truly can change your life. And there's so many other techniques that I teach that are like that. Tell me, when you first began the program, I know that you had a lot of hesitation and you fought me for a long time on the things that I was
Yes.
saying and the concepts that I was teaching you. Talk to me a little bit about your resistance at the beginning of the program.
So, at the beginning of the program, like right after high school, I had moved in with so-called best friend, right, and her family. And, they very much, you know, it's the white man's problem. The life is messed up because it's the white man, blaming everybody, blaming the white man over actually taking responsibility. So, I have lived with these people for 6 months, and I'm sure you remember when you first met me, it was very
Yep.
much, oh, you're crazy. You're just a crazy old white man, using that tactic to try not to accept the new information that I was receiving. So I felt like in the beginning, now I can see it like, oh my God, it's crazy. What was I thinking? Blaming everybody else for my problems. So, I felt like in the beginning, I'm sure you noticed that it was very much like fighting to accept the new information. And, along the
Right.
way, we realized for with me in particular, it takes me 4 times to like learn a lesson, right? And that's just me. That's just me. It takes me 4 times for something to click in my head. But, once it clicks, it clicks.
It clicks.
So
Yeah, we figured out that we have to kind of repeat certain concepts for you a number of times in order for you to really grasp it. And I think what happens is the way that your brain works. I think you process things in layers, and we determined over a series of tests that we did that it's about 4 different layers. And then once you get that
Mhm.
fourth layer, man, it's locked in and you're good.
Yes, it's like with the for me, it's like with the like food, right? Like
Mm.
I always
Uh-huh.
felt like I lean towards food for emotional support. So it was like once I realized, oh, I'm leaning towards food for emotional support. It's like, okay, now we've identified the problem. So now it's like, okay, each time I'm feeling anxious or I'm having a like triggering memory, I have to catch myself, lick my rubber band, and not let myself spiral. And then then I realized, okay, I'm not eating so much. Now I'm able to like go out on that run and have that energy to actually take myself on that run. And I've like shredded 20 pounds in the past month, catching this, emotional eating. And it's, sometimes I feel like in the past, oh, I've told myself I'm forcing myself to go on a diet. No, I'm not forcing myself to go on a diet. I'm just not emotionally eating anymore. I can still have an Oreo and not feel bad about myself, but if I have the whole pack of Oreos, then there's a problem.
I'm so proud of you, Manny, because you've really done the hard work in terms of your weight. When I first met you, you were quite large, and you've lost pretty much all of that weight now. And the reason
Hmm.
you lost your weight was because the way you process information has changed. And so your brain now understands that that behavior that was packing on the pounds is no longer serving you. So we're hardwired from the inside to do what works. And what no longer works, your brain lets go of. So I think
Hmm.
you found it particularly amazing when the weight started to fall off of you, when you began to understand why, in at the root cause, why you were eating so much food emotionally, because that's what you were doing. You were trying to fill a void inside of you that can't be filled with food. And when we figured this out, and I began talking to you about your eating, the weight suddenly started to fall off. So, talk to us about that a little bit.
Right. So, before it was like having certain memories or having triggering thoughts throughout the day and being able, like, letting myself spiral and, going down that rabbit hole of letting these powerful emotions take control of my mind and, my
Hmm.
judgment. I'd be eating, I remember, I'd be eating, I'd order Domino's at 2, 3 in the morning. I get a pizza, I'd get a sandwich, and I get wings, and I stuff this all down. I eat all of it right before going to sleep. Imagine like eating all these empty calories at like 2, 3 in the morning, and then waking up at 1, 2 in the afternoon, just and doing it again over and over. And, all because I wanted to suppress the emotions that I was feeling and not being able to process the emotions I was feeling. But now, 3.5 years later, actually being able to process the information and being able to acknowledge my emotions, but not necessarily letting them take control of me. Like, if I have a memory now, it's like, okay, it's like in my head, am I going to jump in that memory and let it take control over me? Or am I going to take control, flick my rubber band, and let that memory float by and not let myself emotionally eat after? And I felt like and once it actually clicked in my head, and okay, I can let these memories go, or I don't necessarily have to give them my all divided attention. The eating just it clicked in my head, and I'm like, oh, that's why I was going to the vending machine at work. I'm over here working, these long hours, and now it's like if I have a certain memory, I don't have to pay attention to that memory. I let it float by, and I don't take myself to the vending machine and, eat 4 or 5 bags of chips and 2 sodas during break just because I was emotionally eating. Now I'm able to, like, make better choices, healthier decisions, and take control. And the weight just it's almost like it's melted off. Like, I see it like when I adjust my clothes or my belt, like the weight has just melted off. And what better feeling of
But
your whole life? Yeah.
but you
Uh-huh.
understand why, right? You have
Yes.
skills today that you have firmly ingrained in your head that you didn't have before, and it's the skinniness that you are enjoying today is a direct result of the new way you have learned to process information. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, correct. Now being able to process the information and being able to acknowledge and being able to be in the present that no, I'm not going to let myself emotionally eat. No, I'm not going to let these powerful emotions take control of my life. Being able to have that skill of taking a few steps back and taking a couple deep breaths and realizing, okay, I have the skills and I have the knowledge and I have the power to be able to take control of my life in that moment or be in the present and not let yourself spiral.
Yeah, that's great. And the best part of that is that you can repeat that process with anything in your life. You now have a
Hmm.
skill that you can use forever. No one can take it away from you. The pill bottle will never go empty. You'll never need a prescription for it. You'll never have to sit in a doctor's office and wait for a couple hours for the doctor to see you because you've learned a skill that we taught you at Life Skills Masterclass, which you'll be able to use forever to change any aspect of your life. And that's pretty dang valuable, wouldn't you agree?
Oh, I would 100% agree. It's like, for me, the emotional eating was at home. And then, sometimes work can get overstressed or, you feel like you're being overworked.
Yep.
And sometimes, home and work is the most time we spent. So I feel like
Right.
even with work, when work gets overwhelmed or, we're really busy, and in those brief moments, you're able to take control of your life and be like, okay, we're just going through a rush. Okay, once we clear this out, we'll be better. And being able to have that skill, even if it's for work, you take that. and work isn't necessarily a bad place anymore. It's no longer negative. You're no longer putting your emotions in work, and you're able to build that layer between you and work and being able to actually be happy.
Yeah, that's another skill that you're talking about that we teach in Life Skills Masterclass, where I teach you to uh, put some space between how you feel and your response to the trigger. And when you create that space, then you have an opportunity to put yourself back in control, regain control of your emotions, and then you can make a decision that serves you. And that's what you're talking about. And I think it's great that you're using these skills that you've learned in the class at work. And I just heard you say that your work life is more balanced now, and I don't think you dread going to work the way you used to.
Absolutely. Before it was like I would, you know, be mad at work, like, oh my God, I'm going in. Like even before arriving into work, it was I'm setting myself up to have a bad day. I know that sounds crazy, but
No, but
that's
everyone does
it's
it.
just it's
Everyone does it.
it's like now you just have to like you can only laugh at it because before it was like I'd be looking at the clock. Example, I have to go in at 4:30 in the afternoon. 1:30. Oh, I have 3 hours, 3.5 hours before work. 2 o'clock. Oh, I have two and a half hours before
You
work.
start that countdown
3:30.
in your
Oh,
head. I call it the countdown of doom, because you know you
right.
have to do this thing. You don't want to do this thing. And so your brain begins that countdown, and that creates suffering for that whole time period, a 3 hour, 4 hour window, or whatever it is. You're actually suffering before the event even takes place. And so
Hmm.
today that doesn't happen because you have the skills to prevent that from happening. So talk to me a little bit about why you don't suffer like that anymore.
So it's now it's almost like I look forward to work, right? It's like, okay, if I want to put in a 10, 12 hour day, I know there's, to me, it's like, okay, if I put in a 10, 12 hour day, one, I'm gonna get the money, right? Yeah, I'm gonna get the overtime, which, it's all, money's pretty, right? But being able to actually enjoy work, being able to say, no matter how busy work is going to get. I know as long as I am in the present, the hours are going to fly by. I'm not going to get angry and I'm going to feel great because one, I made a good amount of money working. And two, I was able to protect my mindset from the work environment.
Two things I want to say. First of all, did you ever think you'd be making this kind of money when you started Life Skills Masterclass
No, I honestly, if I'm being honest, I thought I was going to be like my parents and spend my whole life in the restaurant business
at minimum wage?
at minimum wage and being on the receiving end of someone else's generosity for tipping out.
Yeah.
And that's really what I
And
thought I was going to end up doing.
today you're in complete control.
Like I'm in control of how much money I make. I know if I want to work a 10, 12 hour day, I am in control and I can determine how much money I make.
And something else I want to talk about is you were recently showing me a document of how your particular corporation tracks productivity. And
Hmm.
you were showing
And
me
that's
that you were number one. And so your
hmm
productivity has skyrocketed. Not only that, not only are you number one, but number two is a great distance behind you in terms of productivity at work.
Yeah, like, for me, it's like, it's almost like it's expected of me to give it 110% every day. And number two, it's okay to give it 50%, right? So it's not that I am, I don't mind. Like I know I can work hard. I know I have that gene to work and I know I'm able to separate my emotions from working, from letting my emotions take control. So I don't mind it. To me, work, I'm there to do a job and it to me, it's like I'm just doing my job. I'm not letting anything get in the way. I'm just, if my numbers somehow are significantly above everybody else, I'm sorry, but that's just who I am. I like feeling positive. I like feeling great. I like feeling alive, being able to feel alive and not necessarily, be angry. And there's days where I go like at the end of the night before bed, wow, I didn't get angry today. I didn't get upset. Like I had a great happy day. And how many people can say they can
But
go to bed and say, I didn't get angry today?
yeah, but it wasn't always that way, Manny, because when I first met you, you were in a very, very dark emotional place. And there were times when I was actually concerned about you hurting yourself or maybe someone else.
Hmm.
Um, eh, how do you see yourself today? Because that's where you started. You were in a very dark place. You were mentally unstable. You were emotionally unstable. You had a very negative view of the world. Everything that you saw in the world was against you, was negative. You were filled with hate for so many different reasons. And then today, I mean, I'm listening to you right now, and I'm hearing you talk about how you get up in the morning and you're excited to go work in corporate America. How does that
Yeah.
happen?
It's not it's a simple journey. It's not easy, but I would say once you start this journey of healing, I guess you could say, of actually
Absolutely.
taking that initiative, to want to be better. I feel like a lot of people now, especially with our phones and social media, the day kind of feels gloomy. Every day starts feeling the same, and every day starts feeling gray. And I'm sure there's people out here watching that, they can relate to that some aspect. Like, I'm tired of being on my phone. I'm tired of looking at, social media and everybody
Yeah.
pretending to be happy. And, we could all relate to that in that matter. And I feel like now, actually, after being able to being able to give that space to yourself and being able to heal and whatever trauma one person may be facing or whatever demon you're facing, being able to take control and giving yourself that relief of it's going to be okay as long as I try and actually do the work. It Your life is complete. It's night and day. Like there's no you once you experience that change in your life and you realize it clicks in you and you start realizing, oh, the decisions I make in my life determine how the outcome of my life. I feel
Not
like
just the
that's the sweet
decision,
spot.
not just the big decisions. When people hear you say decisions, people often think big decisions, but you are now acutely aware of the micro decisions that you make every day and how it affects everything else.
Yes. Like you, for example, we all drive to work. If we get catch, if we're for some reason we're all catching red lights on your way to work, and I'm sure we've all experienced that where you're racing the clock, and for some reason the clock is just getting faster and faster as the minutes go, and you're
Yeah.
catching every red light going to work. If you catch one red light, okay, I caught a red light, but that second, third red light, when you start catching them continuously, though, and those decisions right there, those micro decisions of okay, it's just I'm catching a red light. Okay, being able to give yourself that space of, okay, it's just a red light versus, oh my God, I've caught in three, four, five, six red lights, and now I'm going to be 10, 20 minutes to work. Little
Yeah, I
decisions like
think what you're
that, or
trying to say is that now you're able to see things for just what they are without labeling them and assigning meaning to them and
Mhm.
internalizing them.
Right, exactly. Like, we're all human. We're all gonna catch red lights at some point, but being able to take
Of
that
course.
control and not letting yourself, not letting your emotions overtake you, that's the sweet spot.
Yeah, that's an incredible skill to have. Think about it. That how many people do we walk past every single day who have absolutely no control over their emotions?
Hmm.
You've heard me in the class talk many times about being an emotional zombie. And I think most people are. I think most
Hmm.
people go through their lives without having any kind of real control over what they're thinking and over how they feel. And when I teach you those skills and you suddenly learn that you are the one that has control over how you think and how you feel, that alone can change a person's life forever. Wouldn't you agree with that?
It almost unlocks your true self, and you realize,
Well, it does.
oh, I'm in charge. Yeah, you really like you really do. Your soul, you discover that, what you really want out of life and what it becomes. You realize, oh, this is this I've never experienced this, or I've never imagined it could have been this way. It's almost like before you thought your life was in the hands of other people. And
Do
now
you
you realize,
feel
no, no,
now
no.
that you are living more as your authentic self than you ever have been before?
Yes, I feel like now in the present today, I am living life the way I want to and not letting anybody else control my life.
That's great. That, what a success story because um, if we look at where you started, you had all kinds of addictions. I remember one time having a session with you, and you were sitting in front of me, and behind me on the wall, on the top of a cabinet, there were several bottles of alcohol. You know exactly what story I'm talking about. And you just zoned out. You were like in zombie land. And I had to wake you up and say, all right, Manny, wake up. Tell everybody what was really going on between you and those bottles.
It's almost like I was making love to those alcohol bottles. It's all, with me, like I took, my dad drank, and then, being surrounded in the environment of work with drinking, it's almost like I'm not saying that I'm an alcoholic, but I'm sure a lot of people who have problems with alcohol can relate to this feeling of, those endorphins, just rushing through your body, and, that tingly feeling that you get of, even just looking at a bottle of alcohol, causes your brain to release these endorphins. And, obviously it's not a good habit, but,
Mhm.
my mind was just making love with the alcohol, and that's all I wanted. And, now I'm 22 and a half years old. So I'm legally allowed to drink now, but, since I turned 21, I believe I've bought an alcohol two, three times, and I can say I can go months without having a sip of alcohol and having that control. Oh my God, I thought I was going to be an alcoholic just like my father. And if anything, that's further from the truth. I'm not an alcoholic. I can have a drink and not feel bad, but I'm not going to have a whole bottle of vodka and, make these irrational decisions.
And the same thing happened. Your relationship with marijuana changed as well. You don't even smoke marijuana anymore.
Exactly. Like, before it was like waking up at 5 in the morning smoking weed, by 10 in the morning smoking more weed, before going to work smoking weed, in the parking lot of work, mind you, smoking weed. It's just, I know it sounds funny, but it's just, that's what I was doing, but all because I was
No, but
suppressing my emotions.
absolutely. That's the reason. No one had taught you how to deal with the core issues. And once you and I got to the real core issues of why you were doing these things, um, and your brain began to understand why you were doing these things, then those things no longer were important to you, and they no longer held the
Hmm.
fascination or the usefulness that they did in the past.
Yeah, like, the alcohol, it's just, I can see it for what it is. It's just alcohol. The marijuana, it's not that I associate the marijuana with the alcohol with like, oh, if I wanna have a drink, is that drink because I'm feeling bad? No, I can go to a dinner and have one drink and be like, okay, I had a drink with, while I was eating and not feel not guilt tripping myself of, oh my God, I smoked one joint or I've had one drink of alcohol and now what have I done? Everything has collapsed. My house of cards is over. No, it's just being able to control yourself and having that control aspect of giving yourself that space and not letting your emotions take control over you, I think is the best part.
Yeah, it changes people's lives, and it certainly did yours. I mean, it's not even close. It's I kind of think of your journey like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz because you started out in black and white, and where you are today must be Munchkin Land because it's in full color and it's totally different. It's the polar opposite of where you started. I I really think you were on the path to becoming a serial killer when I met you because you were in such a negative, hateful, dark, depressing place filled with all kinds of addiction and self abuse and self hatred and self loathing. And what I really showed you was that none of that was true. It was just that's how you were perceiving the world because that's
Right,
the filter that you were using.
right. And very much that, coming from the toxic environment that I did come from, that's all I knew, right? That's the only way I was able
You
to
were just repeating
process
the cycle
information.
that you learned because that's what you lived in your formative years.
Yes, exactly. And I'm sure, and even though I have the skills that have now and being able to process the information, I'm sure, you noticed at the beginning that I fought you along. I fought you for, it didn't necessarily last a long time, but I did fight you in the matter of, no, you're wrong. No, you don't know what you're talking about. At 18, I know exactly how the world works and how everything, how everything is
Speak for
working right.
yourself,
And
Manny. You
now
gave
at
me
20,
hell.
to say the least. And but now at 22, it's like it's not that person, that little broken boy that walked in and decided to finally get the help that he needed. I've come so far that I'm
Mhm.
not embarrassed of where I came from. I'm
You should be
grateful that
proud.
actually, I am proud of myself and being able to say I've come a long way and no one can take that
Yes.
away from me.
And here's the best part, or at least for me, the best part is that now that you've graduated the program and you're on your own and you're out there living your life, you are now helping your siblings and you're teaching them the skills that we taught you, and it's
Mhm.
beginning to really impact and affect their lives. Talk a little bit about that if you want.
So I take my sister to work every morning, right? It's just, she's my sister and I care for her. And it's so funny because today when I was walking my dog, she called me at work and she's been promoted to a manager. She works for McDonald's and today's her second day as a manager with her uniform. And she called me today and she's telling me, now that she's in a management position, you're kind of expected more. So she calls me telling me, she's like, I don't want to walk out. She's like, I feel like I want to walk out. And I was like, no, no, no. I almost saw a reflection of myself, of what I used to be when she called me. And, taking those few seconds to like acknowledge the situation, I was like, oh my God. The thought crossed my mind. I was like, this is what Steven experienced in the beginning, if not worse. And, I was able to calm her down and pass down these skills of like, okay, we're on the phone. You're going to take a couple deep breaths and for the next 30 seconds, you're going to relax. And after that, whatever you need to, however you're feeling, tell me and, we'll work through it. And at the end of our phone call, she's like, thank you so much. She's like, I felt like I was going to walk out, but she's like, I knew I just needed to process what was going on and being able to talk to you helped. And she's like, now I'm ready to get back to work. And, it's
That's
fantastic.
amazing. Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. Manny, do you remember way back at the beginning, once you really started believing in me because you doubted me in the very beginning when I was telling you that I could change your life. And do you remember a conversation we had where you asked me why I was doing this? And I told you because someday you will see the mirror reflection of yourself and you will help that person uh, just like I'm helping you. Do you remember us having that conversation?
Yeah, yeah, I do.
And
I
now
remember
you
you
just
telling me.
described it.
Hmm.
And you just described it. Now you're doing exactly the same thing. You're taking what I've taught you, and now you're teaching someone else, and it's going to have a ripple effect in the universe. It's going to help her. She, first of all, she wouldn't have that job at McDonald's if it wasn't for you. She wouldn't be a
Right.
registered voter if it wasn't for you because you are the one that influenced her and she hated both of those things. And
Mm-hmm.
now been working with her consistently, and now she's got a good job and she's got uh, a great um, a great program. I think that we just lost Manny, but that's all right. We're just about ready to run out of time anyway. But what an incredible journey. What an incredible journey, really, when you think about it. Someone who can start out and go from that place to all the way to where he is now. It was so dark and heavy and negative, and now he is in his own job and he has flourished because he has these new set of skills, and it's these skills deep down inside of him that will live there forever and will always serve to guide and protect him. And I think, man, he's back now. We're just going to wrap up, and so I'm going to add him to the stream again if I can. Nope, he went away one more time. Anyway, well, listen, folks, thank you so much for joining us this week. I hope you enjoyed this little interview with Manny as much as I did, because I know that it's going to just be resonate so well with so many of you out there who are listening and watching to this right now. So thanks so much for watching. Take care of yourself and each other, and I'll see you next week.